the time I saw Wendigo. First things first. This happened to me when I was around 10. I've lived in Idaho all my life and spent a lot of time outside or in the wilderness as a kid. My grandparents would take me camping, and my older brother and I would always hike up whatever trails we could find to get a view of the sunset. On one of these occasions, something terrifying happened. We were up at a campsite I only know as Warm River. The river there never freezes over. My brother and I were on a regular evening hike. There was an old tunnel bored through the mountain at one part of the trail, probably an old train tunnel. We were walking through it when then I heard something I'll probably never forget. As we're walking through probably two-thirds of the way through the tunnel, I've heard a I heard a terrible screech at the end we entered through. The screech wasn't like anything I've heard before. I've heard the screams of animals on dark and windy nights. I even heard Bigfoot's calls a few times, but never the metallic grinding screech I heard that day. The point is, whatever the sound was, it did not sound natural in any capacity. Probably jumped 5 feet in the air when I heard it, and my brother shouted a few choice curses before shooing me quickly to the exit of the tunnel. At this point, my brother decided we should just continue walking and head back after whatever made the noise hopefully cleared out. We didn't have any other firearms on us, so I was pretty upset. My brother reassured me we would be fine, and we made the walk back without incident. However, I didn't get any sleep that night. Whether it was a thing that screeched at us or just my imagination, I heard things moving around the campsite the whole night, as well as whispers echoing through the darkness outside the trailer. I woke my brother up a few times to check out what it was, but he refused each time, telling me that it was probably just other campers staying up late and enjoying themselves. The rest of the trip was pretty normal. We packed up the following day, and my life continued as normal. I was disconcerted, but shocked at what happened up as a harmless event that I must have exaggerated in retrospect. A few weeks later, I went up to Pine Basin, an old ski lodge my family rented each year for family reunions. Here, I would mess around with my cousins. Our favorite activities being night games. We would play hide and seek, a game called Ghost in the Graveyard, and other games like that. On one instance, I was chosen to be the seeker for a hide and seek game because I was one of the younger cousins. I got a flashlight as an advantage. Normally, all the younger cousins hid close to the lodge, and the older cousins hid in the nearby trees or at the base of the nearby mountain. As I was searching near the bottom of the mountain, I heard a familiar whistle up the mountain a bit. We would always whistle as a hint at our locations. It sounded like someone was hiding way up near a tree known as the underwear tree. So I began trekking up towards the whistle. As I climbed closer, I got an uneasy feeling in my stomach. I continued on warily and convinced myself that I would be fine. I had to walk in the night alone, but figured whoever I find would walk me back to the lodge. As I neared the tree, I noticed that it was deathly silent. This alerted me that something was very wrong, because you could always hear the adults having fun back at the lodge. I was anxious to hurry back, so I called out, "I found you, Scott." I thought the whistle was my older cousin. "Come back down with me." I got no reply, but I wasn't planning on waiting. As I began walking back down the path, I heard a voice call, "You almost had me." So I ran back up to investigate. I flashed my light in the branches of the tree, and saw a monstrosity that was not my cousin. It looked like a poorly drawn stick figure made into a human with its emaciated figure and lifeless eyes. I remember its face looked like the skin on its head was being pulled from behind. It had torn and stretched features. As soon as I saw the creature, I screamed, dropped the flashlight, and ran back to the lodge. The entire time I ran, I was overcome by an overpowering smell, and I could hear the thing running after me. As I approached the camp, I saw a few people, my cousins, at the bottom of the mountain waiting for me. I was crying and shaking, and they took me inside. I told my dad what happened, but my cousins all said that they didn't see anything following me. The adults kept us inside for the night, and I kept hearing sounds drifting in from the mountains. I never played the night games after that happened. I was always terrified that my cousins wouldn't listen to my warnings. Ever since that night, I've always felt uneasy up in those mountains. I used to be really religious and feared it was a demon of some kind trying to kill me, or something like that, but those mountains have never felt the same after that incident. A few years ago, the game Until Dawn became really popular, and I watched a walkthrough of it on YouTube. When the Wendigo first appeared in-game, I got chills down my spine. It was exactly what I saw, and I did a ton of research on them. I figured someone must have gotten snowed in at the old lodge and resorted to cannibalism. It doesn't explain what happened at Warm River. I still hear that screech from time to time. It never occurred to me until watching Until Dawn that they might be from the same thing. And it scares the hell out of me every time. I read it earlier tonight, and that's why I decided to finally write my story down. Ooh, that was spooky. Alright, I'm gonna take a break from reading, and get some wood for fire. As my character's doing that, I'm gonna find another story. What I can do is really quickly this, find it. Get the roof of fire quick. And as I'm doing that, I'm gonna find another story. Then I gotta find a bush. Well, looks like no one else. Looks like I am currently dying because I need food. Oh, my story time. My son's camera monitor alerted in the middle of the night. I checked it and saw my wife and son sitting on the bed. They weren't my wife and son. I'm a nurse, and I currently work nights. It's a total drag, but I'm hopeful I can go to days soon, since some coworkers are planning retirement. Anyways, I was working one night, when just after 3 a.m. my son's monitor alerted me to the sound and movement. No big deal. No big deal at all. He probably coughed loudly or sneezed or something. He's 3 now, so he generally sleeps all night. I bring it up on my phone and I see him and my wife sitting on the bed. Again, no big deal. He might have. I was about to close the app when I noticed they were acting strange, almost creepy. And when I say almost creepy, I mean creepy as balls. They were sitting on the bed together, both of them, just staring up at the camera with a blank and motionless stares. The night vision is black and white, so they had white move at all aside from their visible breathing. They just sat there staring at the camera. I close the app and give my wife a call to make sure everything is okay. I never get to call home on my lunch, so in a way this is kind of nice to get to talk to my family while at work. It rings a couple of times before she answered with a very groggy hello. It was like she was dead asleep when I called, and she looked wide awake when on the camera. Hey, you guys okay? Huh? Yeah, Buddy, my son's nickname, came in like 15 minutes ago. He seemed scared, so I said he could sleep with Mama. I'm confused here, since I saw them in his room a few minutes ago. Literally 60 seconds had passed since I closed the app and made the call. Wait, so you guys are in bed? Yeah, I fell back asleep right away. Everything okay? Everybody keeps waking me up. He's kind of annoyed. Hang on a sec. I put her on speaker and bring up the app, hoping I don't see it. When the app loads, I get the pang of intense nervousness in my stomach that I haven't had in a long time since I was a kid in school and realized while I was eating breakfast, a paper or something was due that day, and I hadn't done it. My heart leaps into my throat. My wife and son are sitting on his bed, looking up at the camera, same emotionally stare. Hello? You guys are in the bed, right? Yeah, we're trying to sleep. Well, I'm looking up at his camera and I see you two sitting on his bed. Huh? No, we're in our bed. I know that's what you mean, but I'm looking at his bed and you two are in there. Hang on, she says. She's quiet for a sec while she brings up the camera on her phone. I hear this guttural, terrified grasp, like she had sucked all the air in the room into her lungs, filling them to capacity. I don't hear this kind of gasp from my wife often, usually only when she's truly afraid, like during a jump scare in a movie, or one time when we turned her back on her son for literally a second and he was down by the mailbox, inches from the road. I hear rustling of sheets and the line goes dead. Of course now. I'm absolutely terrified myself, so I immediately call back. It goes to voicemail, so I call again. I call again and again with no answer. Finally, after about 4 minutes, she calls me. I tell you that 4 minutes felt like 40 years. Hey, what's happening? I ask. She absolutely hysterical and crying. I can't understand a word she says. Stop! Slow down for just a second, I say. She slows down enough to explain that they are in the car and driving to her parents'. She looked at the camera, and when she saw what was on it, she got up and grabbed our son and rushed downstairs and out the door. Didn't even close the garage. Don't worry about it, I said. I'll drive by when I get off and close it. We live in a generally safe neighborhood, so I'm not too concerned. The door is up. You will not go in there, she says. Hell no, I return. Why are we on the camera, she asks. Is it a recording? I don't know, I returned. I'm gonna keep watching it and see if there's anything I could tell. Do our code words with Buddy. We have code words because we're nerds. We've seen too many pod people and imposter movies. So we decided a long time ago to make code words with each other to be able to tell if one of us was an imposter. We have a couple code words, but we also have a 3-sentence story we recite together, each saying a different part, alternately of each other. I hear on the phone saying the things we taught our son. He giggles as he says them. He does every time we practice, since he thinks they are a joke and he doesn't have any idea of the real meaning. We're both convinced he's our son. My wife then says our part, and I'm convinced he's her. We made up these words as a complete joke to ourselves. I never once in my life imagined that we'd actually need them. Unreal. She got to her parents safely, and it was hard to hang up. I told her we'll figure it out, and in the morning, hopefully, just a glitch. She said she didn't think it was a glitch. When she was running out, she had to run by her son's room, and the door was open. There's a little flashlight on the back of the camera that indicates it's connected to the internet. It gives off just enough light that when she ran by, she thought she saw out of the corner of her eye a shadowy outline of what could have been an adult sitting on her son's bed. It sent chills down my spine to think about. Knowing they were safe and out of the house was the only thing that kept me at work that night. It was a long 4 hours, but I kept checking the camera every chance I got. Sure enough, they were still sitting on the bed staring up at the camera with an emotionless gaze. I studied them to see if I could see any patterns from their blinking to their breathing. Their breathing was steady and looked normal. It was just their blinking that would tell me if this was just some kind of bizarre, time loop freaked accident video or not. I intently stared at my phone and counted the seconds between each blink, telling myself if this is a loop, then their blink should be even and occur at the same time each time. There was no pattern to their blinking. It was just erratic and random, just as a person's blinking should be. The passing hours are what finally sealed the deal that this was not a weird loop video of the kind. My son's window is visible on camera, and I can see on camera that it is getting lighter outside his room. His curtains keep out just enough light to prevent the camera from exiting night vision, but lets in just enough to be able to tell the sun is rising. I try to figure out what the hell I'm going to do before I leave work. Calling the police comes to mind, but I talk myself out of it. First of all, what am I supposed to say? Someone is in my house that they look like my wife but isn't? Worse yet, what if they are entities of some kind and the police do go over and it kills them or something? I decided to tell a coworker about it. He's a firm believer in the paranormal and might have a suggestion. I show him the video that tell him the story. His initial response of, "That's creepy as fuck," doesn't help much. But he says he wants to go over and check it out. He says we both should see if not my wife will try and act like my wife. I told him absolutely not, and he says we should at least go to the house, even if we don't go in. I agree on that since I wanted to close the garage. We got to my house and walked around the perimeter first. Not sure what we wanted to accomplish by that, but it felt like something we should do. The curtains were all drawn since nobody was there to open them in the morning, so we couldn't see anything. I went to close the garage and suddenly had this overwhelming urge to go inside and investigate. It was like I just had to know what was going on. So in we went. We walked through the kitchen towards the foyer where the stairs are. It's so quiet in our house right now, you could hear a feather drop. Forget the pin, we stopped at the bottom of the stairs and waited a second. I looked at the camera again, and they are still sitting there. I've never been so scared in my life. My coworker puts his foot on the first step, and I suddenly say, "Stop!" loudly. Forget this, we're out of here, I tell him. Come on. I start making my way back to the kitchen. We hear a loud creak in the floor from upstairs. It's my son's room. He has a very loud, creaky board right in the middle of his floor that's almost impossible not to step on. My wife and I are still deciding if we ever want to fix it because it will alert us if he's ever up to no good when he gets older, trying to sneak out or something. Come on, come on, come on! I yell as I motion for him to move his ass. We're out of the house in about 2 seconds. Out on the street, I check my phone. Not only not my son was sitting on the bed, same black stare, not my wife was gone. Holy shit, my coworker says. That was stupid as fuck of us. Do not tell my wife we went inside. She would be so ungodly mad if she found out what we just did. I use my garage door opener on my car to close the door. Before we leave, I look at the camera again. Not my wife is back on the bed with not my son, both staring blankly up at the camera, blinking every few seconds. That was all about 4 days ago. Not my wife and not my son are still sitting on the bed staring up at the camera. They haven't moved a millimeter. We obviously haven't gone back to our house. What do we do? Part 2. My son's camera monitor alerted in the middle of the night. Oh, that's just the title. Part 2. I'm sorry it's taken so long. It's been an emotional month. I feel like I'm losing my mind, or I already lost it. I've been in the hospital for 3 weeks. You remember, I left it off at my wife's parents' house, not sure what the hell to do. My wife and I argued about it. My in-law said to call the priest. I told my wife we're calling the cops and that's it. The day we finally called the cops would be day 6. Now my family was still sitting on the goddamn bed, staring at the camera. I told the dispatcher that they were intruders in my house, leaving out the part where they looked exactly like my family. I told her we were out of the house, but I would meet the police there. She dispatched 2 units. My wife begged me not to go. I told her I had to be there. I had a foolproof plan. I would take her mom's iPhone and FaceTime with my wife while showing the police the camera on my phone. They would see this as a fucked up situation and hopefully proceed with caution. My coworker friend said he would come with me as well. My friend and I beat the cops to my house. Like most of you mentioned in the comments previously, I was packing heat. I have not concealed carry, so I have a concealed carry, so I had my 1911 45 on me. I was not concerned if it would bother cops, as I was going to inform them of my permit and that I was currently carrying. What I wasn't going to tell them was that I had my father's-in-law's AR-15 in my trunk. It's almost funny how many of you mentioned that was the way to go in my previous entry. I didn't plan on telling the cops about it because I was not planning on needing it. They would come armed and prepared. They showed up and I let them know I was armed and they enacted my plan. I initially told them the story. They looked at each other like I was crazy and they didn't believe me. I FaceTimed my wife so they could see she was in fact not in the house despite what our camera was showing. They still didn't seem to believe me, but this deed piqued their interest. I hung up with my wife and I told her I'd call her back as soon as we knew something. So now we're sure this isn't recording, and Officer stayed repeating what I said. It's not. The day and night cycle has changed every day. Their blinking is erratic and not cyclical. Like Like it was a repeat, I said. I know it's a stupid question, but your wife isn't a twin, the other officer asked. I told him no. My friend spoke up. I have an idea. Turn the volume up. I'll go throw a pebble at the windows. He went around back while I turned up the volume to max. Okay, I'm tossing. We heard the light tick sound from outside, but the 1 second delay on the camera and loud. And cleared through my phone. Now my wife moved at the sound of a pebble hitting the window. The first time I'd actually seen her move, aside from the time she wasn't on screen when I initially went inside our house the first day. She turned her head towards the window just slightly, before turning back to the camera. Okay, so this is live, an officer said. Okay, sir. I need you and your friend to stay out here. We're going to go in and find out what's going on here. I said, you asked for more units? I asked hopefully. Not at this time. We're going to assess the situation first. They don't appear to be armed, but we're going to be cautious. I opened the garage for them, and they made their way in towards my kitchen door. They radioed the dispatch that they were headed in and to stand by. They disappeared into my house. A few seconds after they went into the camera went out, I wanted to vomit, and I felt like if I put my fingers in my mouth, I'd be able to feel my heart since it had leapt up so far into my throat. Shit, I yelled to my friend. I immediately popped the trunk and got my rifle out and ran into the garage. My friend right behind me. We got inside just in time to hear a low, guttural howl from upstairs, demonic sounding almost along with raised voices from the police. There were several shots. Need backup. Shots fired. He was cut off. Oh my god, my friend howled. He was scared shitless, but so was I. God fucking damn it, I knew it. I said, running up the stairs. My son's room is the first one you come to after getting up the stairs, so his wall is also what you see as you walk up the stairs. As I reached the top, I laid into the wall with my rifle. It has 30 round magazines, but I felt like I fired 100 shots. I fired all over the place, knowing full well the ammo would go through the wall like it was paper. Concentrating on where my son's bed would be, but also near the door towards the floor as well in case whatever these things were thought to duck. Weird shrieks of pain coming from the room, then nothing. My friend and I paused for a moment before deciding to go in because the camera was still out. We heard a whimpering coming from the room. There was a dead cop in the hallway we had to step over. It was awful, and I'll never be able to unsee it. His head was several feet away from his body in the threshold to our gift room. We found the other cop in my son's room right inside the doorway. He had several large holes in his torso, as if he had been impaled. Exactly what I was afraid what would happen had happened. I called the cops, whatever these things were killed. I called the cops, and whatever these things were, killed them. When we entered the room, we found the source of the whimpering was not my wife. She was laying on her back on the floor, holding her torso that was bullet-ridden and breathing heavy. The scene was awful. I could hardly put into words how awful it was. I know now, just like I did then, they weren't my family. It shouldn't have been hard. I should have been able to just go in and finish it, but instead I fell to my knees, not my wife begged for her life. I don't want to die, honey, she whimpered. I wanted to have more kids. I can't die now. I looked over at Namasen, who had been dead. He'd taken 2 shots at least to the head, or what was left of it. He had several more in his torso, and 1 or 2 on his legs and arms. If you have kids, seeing their lifeless, bullet-ridden body is a special kind of hell. Again, I knew it wasn't my son, but it was. I was going to be sick. I'd killed my family, and I turned back to not my wife. She was acting just like my wife. It even mimicked her anxiety about death that she had in the past year or so. It's not her, man. I forgot my friend was even there. It's not her. Shoot it. I know what you guys are thinking. How many times does it happen in movies and you just scream at your TV for the main character to just shoot the imposter because it's not their loved one? I guess movies get it right somehow. I can never roll my eyes at a character who can't kill an imposter again. Please don't shoot me, I begged. My hands were shaking as I aimed at it. Why can't I do it? I knew this wasn't my wife. Listen, man, my friend began calmly. Look at it. Its blood is yellow. It's not your family. Was it yellow? It was. Seeing my family slain was so traumatic, I hadn't even noticed their blood was in red. I said in my aim, and now my wife suddenly stopped begging again. that guttural, terrifying shriek, and something black or gray started to protrude from her mouth, like a tentacle or something, and I fired. At that range, her head more or less exploded. Whatever these things were, they appeared to be mortal. I was still on my knees, and my friend was out in the hallway just outside the door. We heard the sounds of approaching police sirens. I'd forgotten one of the cops had gotten a shots fired call over the radio before being killed. It seemed like it had been hours, but it had only been about 5 minutes since the police had gone in. My friend went downstairs to let the police know what to expect. I stood up and slowly made my way into the hallway. I was lightheaded and felt like I was going to be sick. My bedroom is adjacent to my son's, so the doorway is about a foot to the right of my son's doorway. My door was closed, but as I exited my son's room, my door opened. Nami walked out into the hallway, wearing the exact same thing I was at the same time. I was shocked in place. I couldn't move, but it did. It walked towards me, and its right arm turned black, and morphed into what appeared to be a tentacle. It was wiggling around like a squid or octopus appendage. When he thrust his arm at me, it solidified and impaled me through my abdomen. It then stabbed me in the left leg and just above the kneecap. I fell to the ground in pain. Its tentacle arm was wriggling again. "Why did you kill my family?" it asked. When it spoke, its voice changed pitch several times. It was my voice, then much deeper, then normal again. It alternated several times saying that one sentence. It moved in closer. The rifle was gone, but I still had my .45. I pulled it out and got it shot off right in its knees. It howled. As Nami fell to his knees, I fired a couple more shots, getting two in its abdomen and left side of its ribs. It breathed heavily for a few seconds before I had the last of my strength to aim proper and shoot Nami in the face. Its blood was also yellow. I lay there bleeding out, thinking this was it for sure. I still had some strength from the adrenaline kicking in, so I took my belt off and tried to make a tourniquet for my leg. With my stomach wound, it was hard to give it a good yank to tighten it. I then took my shirt off and balled it up and packed my stomach wound and applied as much pressure as I could. Being a nurse probably saved my life. I passed out, but the measures I took must have kept me alive long enough for EMS to arrive. I heard raised voices and the sound of pounding coming up the stairs before I went out. It was probably a cop, but I felt pressure from somebody trying to keep my wound packed before I went out. I was in and out of consciousness as the EMS arrived, along with probably every cop in the city. I was wheeled downstairs and put in an ambulance. But I, but while I was being loaded onto the gurney upstairs, I heard cops freaking out, and rightfully so. They'd lost two brothers, and there were three other bodies. Did he kill his brother? Or the twins? Probably referring to Nami's dead body. Or his full family. Put him on armed guard while at the hospital. Probably be getting charged. As I was getting placed into the ambulance, I saw my friend talking to a group of about 10 cops, all listening very intently to what he was saying. I went out again in the ambulance. I woke up in the ER. My wounds had been treated. The tentacle hadn't been more than a few inches wide, so it was slightly larger than a large knife. They'd sewn me up, and I found out that I was currently receiving a blood transfusion to do the blood loss at my home. My wife had authorized them to do whatever they had needed while I was unconscious. She looked extremely, extremely pissed that I went in the house. We're okay now, but that's a story for another day. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks since I ended up getting an infection and almost went septic. I needed quite a few antibiotics. For the entire 3 weeks, I had cops in my room with questions. After about a week, they released me and no longer had me under armed guard. I told them absolutely everything, not caring if it made sense or not, and thank God my friend had come with me, since he was able to corroborate this weird story. Midway through my hospital stay, men with suits came to pay me a visit. They were government. I knew right away. They said they were FBI, but I don't know if I believe that. They wanted to talk about not my family. The police chief and the coroner were involved, and it was very hush-hush. They made it clear that this was not to get out to the public. This is where I have to apologize for probably an anticlimactic ending to this ordeal. I don't know what not me and my family were. Neither do they. The only thing we know is that they were sentient creatures that looked like us and had yellow blood. I begged the coroner to tell me about their autopsies, but he said he wasn't allowed to say. He must have felt bad for me since I received a bouquet of flowers a couple days later. The card inside the envelope read, "We don't know what they are. They have the same organs as we do, but in different parts of their body, aside from their brain. But what's red and pink inside is green and yellow inside them. They're humanoid creatures, but whatever they aren't human. The government thinks they may be extraterrestrial. Destroy this later, ASAP. We had our house professionally cleaned. It was almost surely a government team since they contacted us on behalf of the police. We could not find any Google reviews or websites for the company online. My wife and I are not going back to our house. We would love to burn it down, but there's no way to do that, and with suspicion of arson at this point, we'll end up taking a huge loss on the property since everyone in our neighborhood knows that there was an incident involving multiple deaths in the house, but don't know what actually happened. It'll be hard to sell, but eventually it will. We're gonna move on from here. I told everyone at work I was a home invade that it was a home invasion, and they bought it. I'll go back to work in a couple weeks, and we'll start looking for a new house again. I'm sorry. I know everyone wanted a concrete ending and to know exactly what the fuck those things were, but we just don't know. Aliens sound good to me. I've been thinking if they were supernatural or actual demons, gunfire wouldn't have been able to kill them. It's just hard to say. If they were aliens, why did they just sit there and creep in our house for a week? They didn't even try to take over our lives. It's hard to wrap my head around. If it is aliens, keep your eyes peeled out there. There could be more of them. That's crazy. It was crazy. I'm gonna do the creepy or slash creepy text I found. I'm gonna move for this about. Okay, this is over here. Folk tales and customs. That's right. Forest sounds. When I was like 17, I lived in the woods on the northwest coast of Canada. One day, I decided to go for a walk in a part of the woods I had never been before. Because sometimes I see weird things out there. I made sure to bring my grandma's dog with me, just running free and off a leash. These are wildwoods. Hold on. There we go. I'm not gonna lie to you yet. I make sure to bring my grandma's dog with me, just running free and off the leash. These are wildwoods, too. Not parkland, so the only clear areas are deer trails. I snuck along to those because, I don't want to get lost. In about an hour in, I hear the strange whistling, just a short call, one long, sharp whistle followed quickly by a short, piping one. Now I'm in a good mood, and I figured it must be some kind of new bird. So I whistle back, long call, short call. It whistles again. I'm amused, so I whistle again, long call, short call. And then just to be fun, I throw in a little trill at the end. It whistles back. It whistles back the exact same pattern. Now normally that would freak me out, but I was in a really good mood. A really weirdly good mood, so I whistled again, and when it whistled back to me, I giggled. I don't giggle. Not alone in the woods over basically nothing. The whistle came again, and there was a rustle in the distance. Seeing a shady outcrop, I ran to hide, feeling like I was playing hide and seek with someone. It whistled. I whistled back. Another rustle. Closer. I suddenly realized I hadn't seen the dog in a while. I looked around and saw him a few feet away, staring point blank at, totally still, into the forest. The whistle came again, closer this time, and suddenly my weirdly bubbly feeling was gone. Instant fear. I got the dog's attention, and we absolutely booked it out of there, all the way back to the 8-foot high gate that marked the start of the wildland. I locked it behind me, and we never went back. I never really had any idea what was whistling with me in the forest. Maybe some kind of mimic bird that had escaped home, or a squatter hiding out there seeing, what the fuck does that mean? Seeing out there, messing with this kid and their dog. And I only just remembered that when I was a kid, we learned about the Tosanoka woman. The Tosanoka woman is supposed to be an old woman who lives in the woods. She carries a basket on her back and has a long, tangled hair. When children wander away from camp, it is said that she snatches them up in her basket and seals them away forever. Because she had bad sight, she always uses her keen ears to hunt and calls out with a bird-like whistle. Well, that was the first story. I'm gonna start the fire. But I don't have any matches, so... I'm in Scotland, and this is so fucking true. I'm not even in the Highlands. I'm in the biggest city, and this is so fucking true. Sure, drive along the back roads during the day, go deep into the countryside all you want, but stay away from that tree standing alone in the field. Stay away from the from the little stone walls that's falling down in the corner.
Jess said you're a fag.
That fucking scared me. Who the fuck was that? Wow. No matter what you think you see on the other side, in forests and woodlands, stay away from the branches that hang low and look a little too much like reaching fingers. I live close to two of these woods where stuff happens. You can go in during the day all you want, as long as you leave no trace and don't talk too loud. But at night, nah, you can't pay me enough or promise me enough that will make me go in there. Because people who go in there at night either don't come out at all, or they come out, but they're never quite right afterwards. See some jewelry over on that field? Keep walking. Hear some music off in the distance? Cover your ears. Hear something that sounds like bells or chimes? Turn the fuck around and nope out of there. And if you're unlucky enough to be on one of the country roads at dusk, night, or dawn, make sure there's something in all of your seats and keep your music on. Make sure it's something aggressive, nothing inviting. You like drums and guitar and soft melodies, so don't listen to any of that. Keep your eyes looking forward. Don't look at that shadow in the field or listen to that laughter that sounds a little too cheerful. Keep your windows closed no matter how warm it is, and always keep something iron on you. Whatever you do, don't pay attention to those glowing lights that look like cat's eyes in the field and trees. Just keep going. Fucking spooky. Growing up in Ireland, my brothers and I would play in the field next door. What the fuck just happened? Oh, wow. The old farmer, in his 90s, like most Irish farmers, would chop down every tree in his line of sight, but never touch the corpse of holly trees on the top of the hill in that field. He said to play on that hill where the Tioga fairies would take us underground. So years after his death, it's discovered that it's not a hill at all. It's only a... Oh my fucking god. It's only a fucking Neolithic passage doom. He was right. I'm fucking scared. I just heard some noise. Trying to find something. Hopefully it's here. If it's not, then where the fuck could it be? If it's not here, then I'm going to be extremely on edge the entire time. Fuck. Wait. Yeah, no, it's not. Oh, there it is. I found my bowie knife. There we go. Just in case any ghosts want to try and fuck me up. These stories make me fucking scared. you gotta fucking concentrate on it. Let's see. If we spawn in the same spot, my stuff is not gonna be there. That's fucking sad. Alright, so I'm gonna sit right around here. And just read my stories. Strange sightings. 2013, Logar Province, Afghanistan. Night off supporting recovery of an IED disabled vehicle. I'm gunning, kind of loopy from lack of sleep and rippets, yapping about bullshit, probably to myself on internal comms. Scanning my sector with night vision goggles. I had a thermal optic in hand. We had dismounts out mixed in scattered Kelats and property walls. I looked at my 8 o'clock to check for friendly dismounts from other vehicles. Notice one is off the corner of a Kalat wall, about 20 meters. Figure I'd fuck with them with my infrared laser. Just as I'm about to turn it on, I see some distortion in the shadows of the Kalat's walls, about 15 meters inwards. What the fuck? Green said fucking up depth perception? Figure it's just the optic, I just focus. Nope, there's movement. Looks like a dog moving along the wall. Watch it for a second while it skirts the wall towards friendly position. Pretty healthy mutt, most are half starved. Figured I'd give a friendly heads up. Raider out to let him know. About this time I see a laser mark it. Other gunner sees it too late. Or other gunner sees it too. I laser for shits and gigs. Compare friendly's height to the wall. Realize it's at least 8 feet tall. Damn dog is damn near half the height. Start freaking a bit. About this time, a third laser marks animal. Radio chatter of man beast starts. CO tells us to knock off the bullshit. Friendly on ground confirms he sees the large animal. Has to be the size of an Afghan cow. Moves like a dog. Built like a wolf. Animal stops by a cutout in the wall. Steps up into it. No way in hell it's a dog. Team confirms it. What the fuck? This mount has been noped out of the area. Animal lingers, then hops down and quickly dips around the corner. Whole team baffled. That and the semi-common disappearing headlights phenomena. Those are pretty spooky. 2005. 19-year-old 311 in Helmand province. About 1 month in, been in a few firefights, nothing special. Be on the watch at an FOV at exactly 0:30, bored as dick. Decided it's perfect time to chew. I refuse to smoke, gives a nice little target. Look for tin for about 5 minutes, paying no attention to my sector. When I look up, I see two glowing eyes, bright red, about 100 meters out. I stare for a minute to see if I'm seeing things. Eyes don't move, so I grab night vision and look. Eyes are gone when I look through the scope. Come back when I put the night vision down. Sitting there for a good 30 minutes, eyes slowly start to move side to side in an odd motion. Not so much back and forth, but they go left and up, and then drop suddenly, and then right, down, and jump up. Hear weird noises, start shitting my pants. Now, let me say the Afghan people are extremely devoted to the ideas of monsters and sprites and such. Think to stories I've heard and really get nervous. Decide, fuck it, fire flare. Quickly catch a glimpse of a large dog-like creature. Look like a skinny dog but the size of a bear. Grab a 240 and fire. Bright light out of nowhere from bear, blinded for a good 30 seconds. When I gain my sight back, the thing is gone. Never saw the eyes on watch again. Ended up telling my CEO I saw movement, so I shot at the flare. Saw a Haji with a bomb vest. Told a few other dudes in my platoon, and apparently they had seen the eyes too. Scarier than any firefight I've been in. 1970s Brazil, far down south. Father-in-law, from now on, Marco, is in mandatory army service. Stationed at a useless place on a small town. They get called to close down a street. No further information. They seal the street, but no one is quite there. You're screaming coming from one of the houses. Most of the street is empty for all they could tell. Adult male runs out of said house screaming, gets hit by a brick, but manages to get out. No one knows where the brick came from. One of Marco's buddies knows about a kid who was said to levitate shit and throw it around. Marco decides to sneak in the house. Kid is sitting in the middle of the kitchen, household objects and other random shit flying around him and getting randomly thrown around. Nopes the fuck out of there. Should also add, Marco doesn't drink and is an avid atheist, claiming that's the only unexplainable thing he has seen. Next story. My buddy was deployed in Afghanistan in 2007 at an FOB Wilson as part of an arty regiment. He sometimes will talk about the only time he watched men from his regiment fire directly on an enemy. Apparently, two locals scrambled up to the wall surrounding the FOB and began tearing apart and devouring a dog laying dead outside the compound. According to him, they were yelled at, screamed at to leave the perimeter, but didn't seem to even hear the men on the wall around the compound. They tore the dog apart and ate it raw, directly in front of the wall. Then, according to my friend, 3 men went out to try and dissuade these individuals from continuing their feast. The man in charge attempted to communicate with the individuals eating the dog in Pidgin Arabic, but was promptly assaulted and pushed down by the offending individuals. Then they were torn apart by fire from the two guys with them, as well as C9 fire from the walls. I don't know what happened, but I always said it must have been zombies. No idea what really happened. Spooky. Let's see, what other stories can I read? I swear to fucking God, I heard walking. Hello? Also, in the pines. Be me. Nigga, shut up. Be me, American, early 20s, about 13 years ago. Just finished getting an engineering degree at college. Relaxing in a cafe with the boys. We're all roommates, so we know each other pretty well. Me and 3 other friends, Greg, Maximilian, yes, that's his name, and I'm really fucking jealous of him for that, since I think it sounds really fucking cool. I'll be referring to him as Max occasionally, and Franklin, or Frank, what most people call him. What do you want me to look at? decide to go on a road trip. We decide on camping. We're not exactly experienced at in a woods camping. We have gone regular camping before and enjoyed it. Decide that as we're not very experienced, we need a place that is not way out there in the event that we manage to fuck up something and need to leave. Franklin lived in New Jersey at the time. He suggests camping in the Pine Barrens. It covers a surprisingly large area and is remote as we're going to get considering our budget and where we live. Frank explains. The rest of us agree that the place sounds good. We start to plan out the trip. Decide that we need to go during the summer or fall, as cold camping trips would suck ass. Maximilian proposes instead of camping at some basic bitch campsite with like 200 people, why not just go hiking? Find a suitable clearing off the trail and camp there for 3 or 4 days. We all like this idea. Greg says that his cousin could drop us off and pick us up, as we would not really have a place to park around for several days while we romp around in the woods. Fast forward to a few days. We have the trip all planned out for the most part. Going to be out there for 4 days and 3 nights, leaving on Friday and returning on Monday. Greg, cousin, will drop us at the edge of the woods. Rendezvous with his cousin at the intersection of Long Island Expressway and Wading River Road on the fourth day. We have the following: a one-shot 22 rifle for each of us. Additionally, Maximilian has a 45 ACP 1911, Frank has a revolver, 38 or 22. I can't remember which. Fucking pussy. 44 or 357. Camping's essentials. I'd rather not waste time describing all of them. I think Greg bought a fishing rod, a few changes of clothes. We decided against bringing our girlfriends, as Greg had just broken up with his, and we didn't want him to feel alone. And the other ones weren't not too crazy about spending several nights in the woods. Fast forward to Friday. I have all my shit packed and ready to go at like 10 or 11 a.m. Greg's cousin pulls up to our house in a dark green Plymouth minivan. We toss our stuff in the back and head off. It was like an hour and a half drive from the house to where we would get dropped off. For the sake of brevity, I will refer to Greg's cousin as Carl. Carl seems like a pretty cool guy. He graduated uni a few years before we did. The drive there is fun. We mainly talk about what we are gonna do, where we're gonna hike, and what are we gonna eat. Fast forward to us driving along the forest edge. Check for officers, area secure. We pull off to the side of the road that we are on, unpack, and hop out. We wave and say goodbye to Greg's cousin, and then we head off into the woods. That's part 1. Part 2. This is fucking 7-part thing. We plan on hiking for a few hours until we find a good clearing. Hike a mile or 2 into the woods. It has been pretty nice so far, little amounts of trash. Seen a few chipmunks and squirrels, hear the birds singing. We definitely heard a few woodpeckers. We reached the clearing. It is roughly 45 or 50 in diameter. The worst part of it was the poison ivy patch on the northeast edge of the clearing. We made sure to avoid this area. Here's a pic of the area related in this pain area. We set up our tents in the area. We then built a fire pit and gathered firewood, because why do that at night? Do you want to sprain ankle from tripping on some branch? Yeah. Color code for map. Light green is clearing, dark green woods, dark green poison ivy, red fence, orange fire pit, brown box. So they have their tents in a kind of one's east, west, to or south. Campfire is north, and the logs are all around the campfire north. After setting up home base, we decided to hike some more and plant some targets. Hike is going nicely. You see some geese flying in the distance in their familiar peep formation. Fortunately, see a few plastic bottles in some bushes. Sort of depressing and annoying. We see some fucking Jewel Oscar grocery bags stuck in a tree. We aren't exactly Al Gore, but something about being so far into the woods until seeing some lazy fucker trash really annoyed us. Frank is somewhat good at climbing, so he decides to climb up there and pull it down. Sets his pack up on the ground and begins to climb. The plastic bag is about 15 above the ground and takes Frank about 3 minutes to get it. Oh fuck, he yells. What is it? You okay? Yeah, I'll tell you once I get down. Frank untangles the bag from the branch that it was caught in and sits down and says, I saw some fucked up animal up there, he says. What was it? A fucked up raccoon, bro. Shit, like how fucked up? Its head was mashed in, and its chest was torn open, with all its ribs looking broken. Also, it smelled like burnt rubber. That's fucking gross. You didn't touch it, did you? Might have had some weird disease. Oh shit, I didn't even consider that. Well, did you? No, but I'm gonna put some hydrogen peroxide on my hands just to be safe. What did you think of it? My guess is that some hawk was carrying it, dropped it, got it back, was in the middle of eating it when we showed up. Got scared and flew a safe distance. Sounds about right. Anyways, what was your plan with the plastic bag now that you're stuck with it? I hadn't thought of that. What am I supposed to do with this? It's not like there's a dumpster nearby. Put it in your back pocket. Let's get back to hiking. We dicked around here for long enough, and I don't want to be hiking to camp in the dark. Sure thing. We continue on our hike. Some quick info. Since I live in the suburbs, I'm used to seeing a bunch of fat and slow squirrels and chipmunks. They run only if you're right next to them. So it's always sort of weird strange for me to go in the woods and see timid, skinny squirrels. How rarely you see them compared to the suburbs. So I was already feeling a bit weird due to how far I was out of my environment. I told myself that everything was fine and that any weird feeling or concerns of mine were just from living around many humans and technology. I know that was worded kind of badly, but you get what I mean. I'm including this because I figured that it would be helpful to know more about the state of mind and attitude towards spooky feels in the woods. Anyways, back to the story. We were marching along, see the sun just beginning to set. Tell the boys, and we start to head back. Head back to the same way we came. We don't want to get lost. By now, the sky's that orange-yellow hue to it that you sometimes get as the sun sets. It was quite pretty, to be honest. We were passing a tree. Before I continue on with part 3, I'm going to have to clear my inventory a little bit. So I'm not going to need that. I really don't know what this is for. New pipe. No hands. Can't do anything with it. Oh, I'll put it in there. Let me just have it first. As it's getting no time, and I'm losing time. That was a gunshot. Alright, so part 3 of the story. If I can find my phone. You know me, I'm about to ask if he's okay. When I see a large reddish brown snake. Can you not? Can I please do that, please? Fucking phone with you. I'm about to ask. I'm about to ask if he's okay when I see a large reddish brown stain on his jacket that wasn't there before. The fuck is that? I asked. Huh? Maximilian says. Greg looked down at his jacket, sees the stain, and starts freaking out. The fuck is this? Fuck, I just got this 2 weeks ago with Sarah, he yelled. Sarah was his girlfriend at the time, solid 8 out of 10. Maximilian grabs the longest stick and pokes at it where Greg fell. Pushes a few leaves out of the way, exposing the corpse of a possum. That corpse was not a fresh one. The thing had its chest ripped open, with maggots all over it. Surprisingly, there was no noticeable smell, seeing that the corpse was full of maggots. Greg was starting to spurg out. He ripped off his jacket while screaming, "Fucking God, I've got the fucking little grub fuckers on me, fuck, God fucking damn it," or something similar. Greg began to swing his jacket into some tree, probably in an attempt to get the maggots and blood off. Frank grabs a wad of dry leaves and handed it to Greg. Use this to try and wipe off as much scum as you can. The fuck is a handful of leaves gonna do? Need fucking scrub brush and a hose. Greg barks at him. Hey asshole, shut the fuck up. Frank is just trying to fucking help you. And for right now, that's the best cleaning supplies that you can hope to get your hands on. We're in the middle of the goddamn woods, remember? I yell. Greg is about to fire a rhetorical Maximilian times. He has a point, Greg. You have to wait until we get back to our campsite before you can actually wash it. And it's just a fucking jacket, self-sudsing out over some blood. We are on this to relax and celebrate our graduation. Yelling at each other and screeching about some gunk isn't exactly my idea of relaxing. We was about to get the most off it, but there still was a fist-sized reddish brown spot. We resume our hike back. Most of the sunlight gone. This inspires us to move at a much faster pace, since trying to find your way through unfamiliar woods at night is almost fucking hopeless. We can't just set up camp, as all of our sleeping gear was back at the clearing. Thankfully, we reach the clearing after roughly 30 minutes and don't get lost in the woods at night. Me and Frank get the food out. Greg is trying to remove the possum blood with some dish soap, paper towels, and some of the distilled water we brought with us. Max asks us what food we packed. Max and Frank take turns announcing each thing we packed as we pulled them out. Jerky, refried beans, spam, magical fruit. Wait, what? The magical fruit, Frank answers. You know, beans. Greg, who must have been listening to us, adds it. I've literally never heard the same person refer to baked beans as magical fruit. Why do you call it that? It doesn't even look like it could be a fruit. My dad and his side of his family have a goofy little sign that they sing when they're eating beans, Frank responds. He wants to hear it. I egg him on, saying, sure dude, who wouldn't want to hear some hillbilly song about eating beans? I'm not a hillbilly, you dick. Do you want to hear it or not? Yeah. Okay then, Frank, he says. Here it is. Beans, the magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. The more you toot, the better you feel, so I have beans every meal. What's your thing, funny? Next one speaks first. I wouldn't say that was high class humor, but I did find it funny because that is you and like 5 other grown ass men singing that at the dinner table. By the way, Frank is pretty buff, and so are all the other guys in his family. So imagine like 6 of them buff and singing. The more you do is absurd enough for me as my niggies to kick out of the song. That's pretty funny. We all enjoy a good hearty cake, and Franklin seems quite pleased with himself. The meal we decided on just so happens to be baked beans. Max yelled that it's dinner time. The rest of us head over, grab a plate. Max serves us our share, and we sit down on some large rocks. Frank immediately goes, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3. We all break into song, sort of in unison. Beans, and magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. The more you toot, the better you feel, so I have beans every meal. We all cheer with completion of our badly synchronized recital and begin to consume our dish. In the middle of our ritual of the consumption of the baked beans, a loud shriek tears through the woods. I don't really know how to describe it, since I don't hear animal cries where I live, but the rest assured, it was really fucking loud. It was more painful to hear than being in a room full of people scratching their nails across a chalkboard. What the hell is that? Is that some sort of animal death screech? I asked my friend. I heard the screams of dying animals before. This one was too loud for a dying animal to make. Fuck. My fuel is going out. Yeah, good.
What? Babe.
They're all connected together. I'm reading this for myself, by the way, so I'm gonna take a look at it. Did I hit you? Can I read this? Inside. On the screen. Of 0 people. It's kind of fucking scary. But the rest of the screen, it was really fucking loud. What the hell was that? Was that some sort of animal death scream? I asked my friends. I've heard the screams of dying animals before, and that sounded nothing like one. It was too loud for a dying animal to make. You'd have to be sitting right next to the animal for that kind of volume, Perk told me. Well, whatever it was, it made me drop my plate. Max groaned. I glanced over at the ground in his direction. Poor dude's plate landed upside down, and none of the beans survived. Oh, man. Greg offered some of his, and the problem was solved. They all resumed their meals like nothing happened, while I sit stunned. But that's it. None of you are slightest bit concerned or even curious. None of you guys have the slightest clue to what that was. So you guys have decided to just ignore it. I guess so. What we're planning to do, go into the woods at night, try to figure out the source and carry a lot of noise, replies Frank. Well, no, but then do your best to ignore it. We can sleep on shifts if you want. You can sleep on shifts. I want to get a good night's sleep, adds in Craig. Okay, sure, you're fine with this, Frank. I say, yes, I am. Stop squealing about it before I change my mind, he answers. I shut up and finish my meal. Hold on. I'm just eating fucking tortilla right now. I did not cook the fucking chicken properly. At all. Can I cook it? I can put it in my hands. I just put it in my hickey because it's hot. How many degrees Celsius? How the fuck am I able to even hold it open? Yeah, would you consider this scary?
Huh?
Would you consider this scary? I'm gonna cut off the stream there, just with that story. Because I am